Hi, guys, welcome back to My Opinion. This is episode 6 of the relaunch, or for those of you who have been listening for a while, episode 6 of season 4. So, I hope you guys are having a great start to your new year. I cannot believe that it's already halfway through January 2020, which is wild. Thank you for joining us on Maya's Monday Motivation. We've kind of had a theme for the past couple episodes. We've talked about what's your purpose, what's your what. That was last week. Before the holidays, we talked about what's your why. So we're going to stay on that who, what, when, where, why, W theme. And we're going to talk about today the who. So who are you? And some of you might be listening to this and thinking, okay, I know who I am, Maya. I am Ashley. I'm 29. I live in Baltimore, Maryland. You can rattle off and give me the facts about who you are. That's not really what we're talking about with this. So, in my opinion, who you are is not just your name, what you do, how old you are, where you live. It's deeper than that. When it comes into the workplace and when it comes into your career, there are a lot of aspects that come into play. Who you are really matters. It really matters when you're finding out your why or your purpose. Who you are has to do with really your values and the values that are important to you, because the values that are important to you are not always the values that are important to me, to the person next to you right now, maybe your spouse, even maybe some of your friends, maybe even your colleagues. However, it's important to understand what values are important to you, because it's going to shape who you are. That's what we're talking about today. Who you are. So we're going to talk about your personality today. Some fun ways to figure out your personality so it can help you in your career. But then also values. Like, what are core values? Like, there are so many sites that you can Google and they'll come up with all these different things. And I'm going to include some when I post this podcast, and you guys can take a look, and they'll actually break down some of these core values into like what's important at work or what's important for you like personally, which I think is great. But we focus more, in my opinion, on this cast in your professional life and personal growth. So core values, just let's throw some examples out. Integrity is a strong core value. Accountability, perseverance and drive, discipline, honesty, transparency, respect, ethics, innovation. Okay, I'm throwing a lot at you with these words. They're values, they're core values. The ones that I've just listed are some of the top core values that Fortune 500 companies use and define as core values. So when thinking about core values and thinking about where you fall with those core values, I think sometimes we lose sight of how important who we are and how important our core values are, because our core values need to align with what we're doing on the day to day. Obviously, with our family life, with our home life, but with our work life, our professional life, we spend more time at work and with our work family, our work colleagues, than we do with our own family. It's really important that our values are aligned. Sometimes we're not going to have all the same values. It's just how it works. But where I have been the most successful in my career is when I really believed in the core values for a company. Those of you who are working for yourself right now, you probably are identifying what the core values are for your company because they're aligned with what you believe are the core values for yourself and for the company, and they're going to be aligned. Those of us who have worked for large corporations, They have their core values that have been decided upon by a board of directors and some of the vice presidents, the EVPs, the CEOs. You have to decide if you really fit in with that to understand whether or not it's a fit for you. And I don't know that I understood that until very recently. And when I say very recently, I would say within the past couple years. When you have a really strong why behind you, sometimes you lose sight of who you are, which is why I think it's so important that we talk about, and why I'm talking about the W's, the who, what, when, where, why, because I think you can lose sight of who you are in all of this. And even when we were talking about the whys, it was important for me to say that you are your biggest why. So it is important for you to know who you are. If you're sitting in a big company conference, right? We've all been to these big company, or even if you work for a small company, you've been to some kind of company meeting. And if you're not connecting, or if you feel repelled by some of the things that they're saying, and you not only can't get on board with it or accept it, there's something bigger happening there. Your values are not aligning. It's a part of who you are as a person. And I have personally been in the situation where I have felt when I was younger, earlier in my career, when I would look around and everybody would be on board with it, or so I would think. And I thought, what's wrong with me that I can't be like the hoorah cheerleader, excited about some of these things that were happening? Well, I know now because it's not who I am as a person, and it didn't align with my core values. I get that now. So what are some core values? Like, some companies throw them out there and everyone has different opinions about them. That's what this podcast is about. But in my opinion, here are some of the top ones that we see, and you can Google it all day long. Integrity is one of the top core values. It's one of my top core values. Hands down. Not important to everybody, important to me. Accountability, almost tied with integrity for me. If you are willing to be accountable for all your actions, good, bad, sad, happy, glad, whatever is going on, and that's ingrained in the company culture, it's huge because that's who I am. I believe in accountability. It makes it easier to be a part of an organization. It makes it easier to come to work and believe in what you're doing every day when your core value is aligned. Accountability is huge for me. Ethics is another one out there that's always talked about. Diligence, perseverance, and drive. We always talk about how we love to see, oh, that person's so driven or they've persevered. Is that a core value of yours? Maybe, but it is something that's talked about. Innovation is huge. We're in 2020. Innovation is not going anywhere, but it is actually a core value. How important is that to you? Is that a part of who you are? Is innovation an important thing for you? Are you a more traditional person, or is innovation important to you? Discipline. How disciplined are you? I have worked from home almost all of my professional life. I've had a few jobs that have required me to come into the office. I started working from home like a year after I graduated from college. You think I wasn't like just hanging out in my pajamas and just working. However, so I made some mistakes. I will tell you, we all have. But I still had that drive. I still had that perseverance because I had to work a lot. So perseverance and drive were important to me. But my discipline, yeah, that was huge to me too. That was important. Honesty and transparency are another core value that come up a lot, and they're high up for me as well. I guess I like a lot of core values because these are all high up for me. Transparency is really cool as a core value. And if someone brings that as into their company as a core value, I'm interested right away. I will potentially want to work with you. I'll potentially want to be on your team. I'll potentially want to work for you. I love transparency. Honesty is a deal breaker for me. We're either honest or I'm out. But this doesn't happen overnight. You don't figure out all these core values. And I'm just giving you some examples. There is literally, and I'm going to again tag this in the podcast post, there are tests where you can look and see, okay, like, what are my core values at work? What are my core values personally? And it will tell you so much about who you are and the right work environment that you should be in, which I think is just phenomenal. And you need to be true to that, because I have been in work environments from both sides. And when you're sitting in a room or in a meeting and you're not feeling comfortable, you're feeling uncomfortable. Being uncomfortable is not a negative thing. Being uncomfortable to grow is a positive thing. Being uncomfortable because you know that your values aren't aligning and that's not who you are, that's when it becomes a negative thing and your values are not aligning, and you will never be as successful as you could be and will be when you are somewhere where you are who you are and your values are aligned. So that's one take on knowing who you are. And knowing who you are is a journey in life. So this could be like, I think I've said this before on the other casts, this could be a long conversation. But there are multiple sides to understanding yourself and multiple conversations to understanding yourself, even in a professional sense. Personality tests are a huge topic of conversation. If you guys follow specific people on LinkedIn or have just gone through this personally at work, I actually love personality tests. I think they are a way for us to gain knowledge about ourselves and about people that report to us, or even our leaders, or anyone that we work with, our peers, to help us better understand each other. But step one is understanding who we are, and personality tests are incredible. There are so many out there, though. You could do a personality test like every day. I think the most famous one, of course, is the Myers-Briggs, and I get that. Everyone always asks me, what is your Myers-Briggs like personality? I am an ENTJ, which means I'm extroverted, I'm intuitive, thinking, and judging. And it also, like, there's a couple different terms that come with it. It means that, like, I'm the executive, commander, leader. I'm a leader personality. So it's not really shocking. Do I think this is the best test out there? No, not really. I think it is a great test. I think there are so many tests out there. So it really depends on what you're going for. If you're looking for something general to help you understand who you are, definitely start with this one, for sure. But the fact that I come from a sales background, I've taken so many tests and I've now administered so many tests to my teams. And I love the DISC test. Check it out. It's really awesome. But it helps you really understand yourself in so many ways. I love personality tests. So any of you guys who know me have probably taken a personality test or two with me. But I think the biggest question is, what value does a personality test bring on who you are? Because we're talking about who you are as a person and defining that and understanding that. I think self-discovery is really important. I've always been on this journey personally to really understand who I am, and I've always been so intrigued by these personality tests, and so many of them have been so spot on. Myers-Briggs, for me, is really, really spot on. I love the DISC because I'm a very sales-oriented person. My life has been in sales, so it's been very accurate for me. There are so many other ones out there. Message me, send me a DM, whatever, on Facebook, Instagram, and I'd be happy to give you a recommendation for whatever field you're in. because sometimes I think you need to dive a little bit deeper. I've given specific tests to people that have reported to me depending on what their needs are. When you're doing self-discovery and you're trying to understand yourself and trying to understand where you fit in within your career, or you're making a career move, or you're going out on your own and becoming an entrepreneur, that's one thing, and there will be different tests that are applicable to you. It's always good to know your personality regardless and who you are. But I will always caution people in general, and I think this is something that has become talked about pretty publicly lately on LinkedIn. I'm a huge LinkedIn fan. If you're not on LinkedIn, get on LinkedIn. But talking about giving personality tests prior to hiring, it is the craziest thing I've ever seen. It is discrimination. It should never happen. Need I say more? But on the flip side, once you are in your role and once you have found your home and you're working somewhere that you're happy with, and you have a supervisor that tells you like, hey, we do this personality test, we do this analysis, that's wonderful. Embrace it. Those have been the best jobs, places I've worked ever, because they truly want to understand you and how you work, how you manage, how you like to be managed. And I think that's really refreshing. But I think it's also really important that we understand the difference between what is healthy and what is unhealthy in the understanding of who we are and our privacy and people diving in too deep. But your supervisor or your team or your company wanting to invest in you and understand that is great and absolute positive. So who are you? What are your values? What are important to you? Have you seen a company out there where you are just so aligned with their values and you understand that? Get out there, network with them. You want to work for them? Do you feel like you're working for someone right now where maybe your values are conflicting? That's okay. The acknowledgement of that and understanding of that and the recognition is a big deal. And sometimes people are in a position and work for a company for a long time and don't realize that they're doing something every day and it's really not who they are. So when we can bring awareness to this as early as possible, I think that is powerful. So I encourage you to really look at values, because it's not just as simple as the couple values, that core values that I listed. Every company that you've worked for has had some core values, or you've seen something thrown up on a wall, right, in the back room. Even when we were young and we started our first jobs, or even if you guys work in a company where you have a back room, or, and there's those values thrown up, and do you believe in them? Is that what you believe in? Where are you aligned with that? Really think about that. So I'd encourage you to do this exercise. It will really help you help yourself know who you are. And then also do these exercises. Take these tests. I find them fascinating. And then I also find them very creepy because they're so accurate. Like, how do these people know who I am? They don't know everything about me, right? They do become very accurate because I also go into these tests very raw and very honest. So I encourage you to do that too. So know who you are. We don't have to have all the answers today. Understand your values. Understand what's important to you. Understand your personality. I know Myers-Briggs, you're not my favorite, but I know it's true. I am extroverted. I am intuitive. I am thinking, and I am judging. It's very true. I'll encourage you all to definitely dive deep into who you are. I feel like these are great topics for 2020. We're in a new decade, and really understanding who you are, what's your purpose, why are you doing the things that you're doing, and continuing down that path. I think it's really fun. So thank you guys so much for listening to My Opinion. You guys can follow me at My Opinion Podcast on Instagram and on Facebook. You can follow my personal as well on Instagram at Maya Roffler, and send me a message on any platform. I would love to hear your feedback. Tell me about your why. Tell me about your purpose. Tell me about your Myers-Briggs test, who you are and what's going on with you, anything you'd like to hear about on the cast. Thank you guys so much for listening, and we will be back here next week on Maya's Monday Motivation on My Opinion.